Thank you, Geneva Summit organizer, for giving me opportunity to be here once again. So I consider this a special day. I consider today a very special day because this summit dedicated to bring human rights heroes across the globe is entering into the 10th anniversary. At the same time, I wanted to remind you all here that this year, 2018, marks the 10th anniversary of 2008 widespread protests across the Tibet. So this summit, dedicated to promote and protect human rights defenders, is turning 10 years. That's why I consider this very special year. So I'm very happy to be here. And such a unique platform, an important and historic year to observe, I wish my friend Tuntu Wangchen, with whom I made the documentary film and thankfully has been able to escape from Tibet a few months ago, could have been here today. But due to some reasons, he couldn't join us this time. So thank you very much once again for giving me opportunity. I am Golog Jigme. I am human rights activist and a documentary filmmaker. As a filmmaker, my friend and I made a film called Leaving Fear Behind. The reason behind making the documentary film was China is propagating lies, fool international community. They tell lies. And when China was preparing for 2008 Beijing Olympic, China intensified its propaganda and lies that human rights are respected, Tibetans are happy, and China propagated lies and said that Tibetans, Uyghurs, and those minorities under China were repressed and severe crackdown on all the human rights defenders. Therefore, we felt it is very important to expose the repression inside Tibet, to inform the international community about the true situation inside Tibet. China claims that China has brought lots of development in Tibet, happiness in Tibet. That's what China claims. But people inside Tibet are deprived, are denied of human rights that are Tibetans are not free and enjoy freedom of expression. That's why we made documentary film to expose the true situation inside Tibet. So in the film, there is no freedom of expression, environmental protection rights, religious freedom inside Tibet. Therefore, to expose the true situation inside Tibet, we made the film. I have participated in series of protests against the Chinese repressive policies in Tibet. And I was arrested for the first time in 2008. I was arrested for 3 times and tortured brutally. I was arrested for the first time in March 2008. I suffered a lot. I experienced what torture really means in Chinese prison. It isn't possible to share all the torture that I was subjected to due to time limit. So for the first time when I was arrested for 51 days, I was subjected to serious torture, and among all the kind of torture that I was subjected to, the most painful and the worst thing I had suffered was I was put on iron chair. I was put on iron chair. My hands and ankles were shackled and made me immobile for 9 times. It isn't possible to put all the tortures in kind of suffering I was subjected to in words. And in front of iron chair, they put a very bright torch placed exactly in front of iron chair. The heat and light coming out from the torch was so strong that gave me a feeling that my whole skin was melting. Light from torch was so strong that I was unable to open my eyes. So when I was put on the iron chair for the 9th time, it was horrible beyond a human being can imagine. And I felt like all my organs, my lung and livers were coming out from my mouth. So this is a very simple and small incident of how I was tortured physically. And if I share you about how I was tortured mentally, I was forced to denounce His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I was forced to denounce the Central Tibetan Administration. I was forced to condemn Tibetan Youth Congress. I was forced to admit and declare that the 2008 Tibetan mass protest in Tibet was a violent act. I was pressured to disclose the names of all Tibetans who had participated in our secret interviews conducted for the documentary film and forced me to give the name of all Tibetans who had participated in 2008 protests. So I suffered a lot. Despite lots of tortures and hardship I was subjected to go. Today, when I look back to the most painful part of my life, I am overjoyed and I take pride in what I did for the greater cause. I haven't revealed the identity of single Tibetan who have courageously spoken out their voices against the Chinese operation in the documentary film. So what I said is just what happened to me. This is just a small example. And many people continue to face similar kind of torture that. So I'm here to speak on behalf of people who continue to face problem, who continue to face torture in Chinese prison. I was arrested again for the second time on 10th April 2009. I was beaten and kicked. And I was arrested for the third time in September 2012. I was When Chinese authorities put me in the prison, I was ready to go to jail and spend my life in the jail. But I learned that when Chinese authorities put me in prison, they were planning to kill me. After learning about the Chinese authorities' plan to kill me, I decided to escape. After which, then I escaped from prison and I spent 20 months in hiding. I was shocked to find that the Chinese authorities announced a reward of 200,000 Chinese yuan to whoever disclosed my whereabouts. So I was fortunately able to escape in India in 2014. So in the last 3 years, I I use all the possible opportunities and avenues to inform the people about the true situation inside Tibet. So since today all the human rights defenders organizations are gathered here today, I have a request and urge for you all to that if the situation in Tibet is not addressed as soon as possible, the universality of human rights is under threat. And under the China's economic influence, the universality of human rights is under. So it keeps the principle of human rights, freedom, above all and safeguard the universality of human rights for all humanity. So those who are fighting for human rights should continue our fight. Those who are supporting the defenders should continue their support for the human rights defenders. If we fail to protect the universality of human rights and trade human rights for the economic gains, and every human needs human being needs human rights, basic human rights. The basic time has come to protect and work together to protect the universality of human rights. So there are so many political prisoners in Tibet. So on behalf of all the political prisoners in Tibet, I would like to thank you all.